Doomfist is now officially in the world of Overwatch, and he is just awesome. I mean, I have been playing so much Overwatch lately because of his release. I mean, I have seen him in just about every match that I've played, either playing as him or just running into him lately. And although his powers are innovative and his aggressive playstyle is super fun and interesting, it's his driving philosophy that I want to talk about today. Doomfist endorses a pretty unique social and political philosophy that gives the appearance of being anchored to something pretty controversial, but in reality, once you unmask it, you find that it's giving you the old switcheroo, and it's actually something else entirely. For those of you who don't play the game, and you really should, it's easily one of the most creative and fun multiplayer shooters on the market. Doomfist is a mixed martial artist turned millionaire tech CEO turned supervillain. He's one of the leaders of the game's version of the Legion of Doom called Talon, which espouses a philosophy claiming that the only way that the human race will survive the future is if it were to experience violent upheaval and conflict. One could say that Doomfist is a fan. After all, he inherited the mantle by first murdering his mentor, and then his mentor's mentor, before purging Talon of any individuals who didn't agree with his core ideology. In fact, in most of the games that he starts, you can hear him saying the quote, "Only through conflict do we evolve." And the term evolve is used here intentionally. After all, in the Wikipedia entry for Talon, they note that Doomfist sees himself as a Darwinist. That should answer that question, right? Is Doomfist a Marxist? No, because it's literally a Google search away. All you have to do is look it up, video over, roll exit. But y'all know I wouldn't go through the trouble of making a video with this kind of evocative title and making this kind of thumbnail if I didn't have something better for you than that. And in fact, when you look through the details of Doomfist's ideology, you find that he actually has a lot more in common with Marx than he does with Darwin. And I mean, a lot more. One thing is difficult to characterize Doomfist as a social Darwinist because that label doesn't exactly come with a coherent ideology. In reality, it's more of an amalgam of different premises from different people, of which, by the way, Darwin was neither the first or the most radical. Without being too reductionist, social Darwinism argues that societies and entities within them undergo similar evolutionary transitions as species do. It hinges on the term fit in the famous survival of the fittest, which, by the way, was coined by Herbert Spencer, not Charles Darwin, and is emphatically not how evolution actually works. It holds that there are naturally strong people and societies and naturally weak ones, and it is the prerogative of the strong to dominate the weak. Opponents use Darwin's ambiguous ideas on the topic of human social evolution to be able to advocate for everything from feminism to laissez-faire capitalism. But as history classes have taught us, things got really racist really quickly. Due to a tendency to oversimplify race by biologizing it, some advocates began using this idea as a form of social control. Whites, specifically Anglo-Saxon whites, were considered to be the creme de la creme in this model, while minorities, especially African Americans, although not exclusively so here in the United States, were considered to be socially, intellectually, and morally inferior. Eugenics programs flourished with the advancement of this ideology, which, again I emphasize, was not actually Darwinian evolution. Now, some historians argue that these ideas may have been given more clout due to the popularity of Darwin's ideas. However, with a earnest look back in history, one finds that these ideas have been around for centuries, essentially. Regardless of how these ideas came about, they are responsible for some truly heinous actions towards minorities, towards impoverished people, and those with mental and cognitive disabilities. We are still dealing with the stain to this day. On the surface, this all resonates with Doomfist's character as we know about it right now. I mean, there's the ideas of strength and conflict, and the fact that, he's a villain, but when one looks at his driving ethos a bit closer, you find that the similarities that he appears to share with social Darwinists falls faster than a meteor strike. One of the big things that separates the two are the reasons why their ideas came into being. The reason that the social Darwinists came up with their ideas was because of a misguided understanding of biological processes, as well as a hefty dollop of status quo bias for the contemporaneous political and social order. Doomfist, however, developed his ideas through his experiences as a martial artist, getting stronger with each fight, and as a victim of a robotic uprising that caused him to lose his arm. The result was one of many mechanical upgrades that augmented his body and made him strong enough to literally punch his way out of prison. There's nothing biological about it. There's an enemy stronger than him. Conflict with that enemy allowed him to viscerally visualize the gaps in strength between them, and then he was able to close it. His evolution involved taking on the artifices of his enemy so that he could eventually surpass them. He doesn't think that there are some class of people superior to others, rather he thinks that all individuals who have been starved of the conflict he would prescribe as being categorically unfit. In fact, he even goes as far to goad Zarya, the world's strongest woman, whenever he sees her in a match.
Human strength will only get you so far.
Unlike the social Darwinist, he doesn't believe that there are some people who are predisposed biologically to being superior or inferior to others. Only the strong will survive, but anybody is capable of being being strong if they're able to work for it. To him, what separates the strong from the weak is the willingness to rise to the challenges ahead, to face the conflict that is going to come, and to do what is necessary to rise to the occasion. So although there are some initial harmonies, the comparison is more than just a little flat. But there is another paradigm that better fits with what we know about Doomfist ideology. Or should I say, Comrade Fist? No, I absolutely just shouldn't. That just sounded stupid, I'm sorry. But stupidity aside, Doomfist actually shares more of this ideology with Marxists than he does with social Darwinists. A lot of people implicitly associate Marxism with communism. In fact, if you're brave enough to read Facebook comments and Twitter exchanges, you'll find that many more or less use them interchangeably. Which is wrong on levels that I just don't have time to discuss in this video, but in brief, communism is a political system which has a spotty success record when put into practice, while Marxism relates to a network of theories and critiques and philosophies about history, economics, and sociology, many of which have been discredited. Others still are very insightful though. And the one that is most insightful for understanding Doomfist is Marx's understanding of history. According to Marx, historical progress is determined by class and economic development. And by development, he meant the increasing ability of those with capital to exploit those without it. Again, he was pretty married to the idea of socialism. Looking back on history, Marx noted that increases in political complexity were, at least to him, always accompanied by changes in the underlying social dynamics that underpin economic transactions. A popular belief in the day held that society advanced through a number of historical stages. Marx argued that advancement through these stages were predicated by changes in the underlying social and economic order that would change the dynamics of class, and that advancements within these time epochs were driven by the conflict between the haves and the have-nots. The thing is that many philosophers find this conception to be a bit too narrow. After all, there is more than just economic types of conflict out there in the world, and these other conflicts can cause changes in the societies that they're embedded in. This understanding led to the advancement of the sociological paradigm known as conflict theory. Basically, conflict theory holds that societies change in the presence of significant and substantive conflict, and that conflict comes about through various sources of power. Sometimes it's economic, sometimes it's political, and other times it's social or moral. But what matters is that there are forces that come to a head and the society around it changes because of it. Conflict theory doesn't just seem like Marxism 1.1, it's actually its direct intellectual progeny. As Randall Collins notes in Conflict Theory and Advance of Macro-Historical Sociology, it's fair to say that modern conflict theory emerged as an effort to produce a non-ideological version of Marxism. Conflict theory per se has no commitment to socialism. Conflict theory is better able than Marxism to analyze the multiple trajectories and turnings of history as driven by a wide variety of conflicts. Sourced down in the doobly-doo. So it's not just economic exploitation that causes society to change, it's political upheaval, social unrest, or as Doomfist emphasizes, unadulterated violence. According to this premise, by antagonizing the social order, Doomfist intends to force it and its members to adapt to the unique threat that he offers them. In making these changes and dealing with the threat that he poses, society will become stronger. This doesn't just sound like Doomfist's ethos, it is his ethos, and it comes straight out of the conflict theory textbook. Now, there are a bunch of problems with this philosophy, both from a practical as well as an ideological perspective that I can get to in a separate video if you guys want me to. But, at the very least, this seems to resonate a lot more with what we understand of the character now than the misguided understandings of biology that characterizes social Darwinian thought. Admittedly, it wouldn't be entirely accurate to call Doomfist a Marxist, since again, Marxism is more focused on capital and class and economic schisms than Doomfist is. Doomfist does not seem to have any sort of financial incentives at all. I mean, you may be able to make an argument for him being a pure Marxist if you were to say, look, he's a member of the bourgeois class, being an investment, or not investment, a technology giant CEO, and his views on conflict are from this high post where he never had to deal with serious conflict throughout his entire life. And, there's an argument there, but I don't think that the internet would particularly buy it without me having to spend 30 minutes justifying it, so I'm not going to say that he's entirely a Marxist. But let me know what you guys' thoughts are about that, about the political philosophy of Doomfist, about Overwatch characters in general, about conflict theory as a sociological and political paradigm. I look forward to reading all of them and answering a few of them in the next office hours. Links for everything, as always, will be down in the doobly-doo, as well as links to the Facebook, the Twitter, and the blog. I look forward to seeing you guys all out there as well. If you enjoyed this video, I hope you consider giving it a thumbs up, and if you want to support the channel, you can do so by commenting down below, by sharing this video, and by subscribing to stay in the loop for more awesome social science content as uploaded. As always, thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you next time.